When you're standing at the threshold, don't let fear decide how it'll all unfold. Take one step toward what you love, and let that heart of yours, let it rise above, and trust that you'll have everything you need, beyond illusion of security. Love will provide. Pour it out and let it flow back to you. Oh, love will provide. Cast the doubt aside, 'cause love will provide. Don't let it worry to drag it down. Put the brakes on worn out thoughts and keep spinning around. Take one step toward inspiration, and let it lift you up into a higher vibration. And know that you have everything you need. 'Cause love is the only true security. Yeah, love will provide. Pour it out and let it flow back to you. Oh, love will provide. Cast the doubt aside, 'cause love will provide. Oh, yeah, yeah. No, you gotta let love take you. Oh, no, it will not forsake you. 'Cause love will provide. Pour it out and let it flow back to you. Yeah, love will provide. Cast the doubt aside, 'cause love will provide. Cast all your doubt aside, 'cause love will provide. Yeah, yes it will.
I have enough time. I have enough love. I have enough joy. I have enough intelligence. Now I see some people smiling. I have enough money. I have enough friends. I have enough wisdom. I have enough freedom. I have enough God in my life. My life is filled with abundance, and I am enough. My life is filled with abundance, and I am enough. Today's talk is good enough God. One of our basic teachings is that we are expressions of the divine, and yet so much of the time, and I'm going to guess that this might have happened for you, when we start saying things like, I have enough money, there's another voice in the back of the head that says, well, what? Wait a minute, I'm not so sure about that. I have enough time. What? That there are these experiences in our human experience that show up and say, wait a minute, that hasn't been my experience yet. Or that hasn't been my experience up till now. Today I want to talk experience of pulling forward the consciousness of abundance in all areas of our life. And then working, co-creating with the divine, having faith that yes, that is what the divine wants for you. And then doing your part, doing the footwork to actually bring it about in expression. You think it could happen? That's, okay. Let's try that again.
Yes.
Whoa, very good, yes. How many of you, go ahead and say, it's me. How many of you have had that experience in some part of your life? All the time it happens, where you give focus to that one thing that you recognize you're having an experience of lack around, and you know, this is the easy, I mean, you can leave after I say this, are you ready? This is what you do. You go, I'm having an experience of lack around time. I have perfect faith that there is a divine presence, a source of life itself, that actually wants me to experience an abundance of time. And then expound on that. I know that this source of life wants me to have time to enjoy the flowers, to spend time with my grandchildren, pets, to have time to care for my body. There is a source that wants that for me, and I am going to do the footwork to make that happen in my life. That's it. That's the whole lesson. Because what we teach, what we believe, is that it's about consciousness. Once we align our consciousness in faith, knowing that there is a power, a presence that we call God, that wants the very highest and best for us so that we can live our best lives, so that we can be a blessing to others so that they can live their best lives, then we are actually living free. Freedom is one of my great values. An emotional freedom. Freedom of consciousness. So I want to tell the story of David and Goliath. Y'all know this story, right?
Yeah.
But there might be someone who doesn't. Just in case. So in the story of David and Goliath, the Philistines were on one bank. The Israelites were on the other bank, and they were preparing for war. Now, according to the story in the Bible, they were preparing for days, like day after day. They're on these two banks, overlooking a valley, and they just kept getting ready. Goliath came out front. Goliath, 7 feet tall. He wore 186 pounds of armor. That's just in the Bible. That's what it says. So he's a big guy, right? He comes out and he says, you know what, let's just do this. We really see that neither one of us really wants this massive loss of life. Of course, this is me paraphrasing. It's not strictly word for word. We don't want to see a massive loss of life. So why don't you just go ahead and send whoever you've got over here to the Philistine side. I'll represent the Philistines. You send an Israelite, and we'll have it out. And then, you know, if we win, you become our slaves. And if you win, we'll become your slaves. And we'll be done. Well, so that went on for several days. He kept marching to the center line. And there was no response. Saul, the king at the time, the very first king for the Israelite people, who had been appointed by God, he was waiting for someone to step up. So David, of course, was a shepherd. David's a shepherd, and he's the youngest in his family. So he will have absolutely no inheritance. Know that that's true. When you have 3 older brothers, the only chance for you to get an inheritance in your family in the time of Israel and the Philistines is if all 3 of them died. So he's serving the king on occasion. He's serving his father, Jesse, and he's serving his older brothers and taking care of the sheep at the same time. So he's a little busy. I'm thinking he might have had an idea, I don't have enough time. He's going all the time, right? So he's going to the front line and he's taking food to his brothers and he says, what is going on? Why are you standing here day after day after day? And they tell him about Goliath. And he gives us some thought. He goes back to his sheep and then he's serving the king. So he takes food to the king and he says, you know what, I can do this. I can take him out. And the king looks at this scrawny, young, the stories are he was like 14 or 15. Scrawny young boy and say, I don't know how you're going to do that. And he says, no. I'm a shepherd. And do you know that as a shepherd, I will do anything to protect my flock? There are bears and wolves, and I take them down. I've got a slingshot, and I shoot them, and if they don't go down, I throw my body out there, and I take them down. I don't know how true that was. I'm just thinking about a 14-year-old boy with a bear.
He can do it.
But that's what he told the king. And the king said, okay. And so the king got him armor, and he put it on this boy, and the boy couldn't walk. Right? Because it's too heavy. It's built for men. He throws it all off. He goes down to the front line. Goliath comes forward, and he gets out his slingshot, the tool that he knows how to use. And he hits Goliath in the forehead, and the giant goes down. Now, when I was a kid, I grew up Unity, and I really believed that all the stories in the Bible were make-believe, were myth for us, that they were used in metaphysical interpretation only. But did you know that that mostly is a fact story? Mostly historians believe that that is how David got to the throne. And there is actual evidence to back up that David was on the throne after Saul, and there's much information to support this story in the Bible, except for maybe the bears part. For me, and in Unity teachings, however, we look at the Bible truly and the stories in it as how can they be of service to us in our lives right now? Who has had a Goliath? Let me rephrase. Who has never had a Goliath in their life? The experience of having a Goliath can come in the form of bad habits. It can come in the form of discrimination from the outside. It can come in the form of lack of education. A boss. Participation. Who else? Who else wants to say what their Goliath has been? Health. The body. Or probably rather lack of evidence of illness is a Goliath. Many of us have faced it or seen loved ones face it. David metaphysically represents love. Now, when I take a look at this story of David and Goliath, what I see is persistence and love and strength. The willingness to use wisdom beyond the strength of the body in order to defeat his Goliath. And that's what we're invited to do. We're invited to rely on that inner strength, that inner wisdom, that what? The source of life. We're invited to rely on that divine presence that every single one of us can tap into at any time to align our minds, our thoughts, our words, our actions with that source, that we may have the power to defeat the Goliaths in our own experience. I invite you to think back to those of you who have already had experience of defeating Goliaths. Think back to what it took for people in 12-step programs where the Goliath was addiction. It took surrender. It took recognition that the Goliath was a Goliath. For people who've grown up as children of abuse and become adults, it often takes love. Being willing to love that young child from your own inner consciousness, aligned with the divine presence, seeing that poor little boy or girl who had been abused with love. Many of us find that that eventually does lead to forgiveness, or a desire to forgive. I have been remiss this month in not bringing to our attention on Sunday mornings on the platform that this is Black History Month. And so I didn't want to miss this opportunity to talk about Goliaths that, let me look around here. Yeah, we in this room may not see, may not experience, but many, many people of color have experienced for a few hundred years at least. I actually don't know the history of the whole world, but I did some research into Unity's history. And you know, Unity is actually based in Missouri. That's where Charles and Bertle Fillmore where they planted Unity Village. This story of Unity's consciousness shifting is a story of individuals being David and overcoming the Goliath. In 1950, segregation was the law in Missouri. At Unity Inn, people of color were turned away. They were not allowed to come in and eat. They could go in the back entrance and work, but they were not allowed to come in and eat at the inn. And do you know that that was the norm? That was the norm at that time. But there were a whole lot of Davids, and they were willing to take on this Goliath. And the one that I want to tell you about today is a woman named Reverend Johnny Coleman. She had been given a 6-month diagnosis of her ill health that gave her 6 months to live. On the phone, by the doctor. Now, I'm really glad doctors don't do that on the phone anymore, aren't you? Okay, judgment. Release. But she'd been given a diagnosis that gave her 6 months to live, and she set down the phone, and as she reeled away from the phone, she knocked a magazine off of the coffee table. It was in a stack of magazines that her mother had sent her, and it fell to the floor, and it opened up, and it said, "God is your health. You cannot be sick." She called her mother. She said, "What is this Unity thing?" And her mom told her about it. So she sought out a center in her area. She was in Chicago. And eventually she learned enough and she got healed that she went and she wanted to become a minister. So in 1952, she enrolled in the seminary at Unity Village. And she, as the only Black person in the ministry program, was not allowed to live on campus. So, all the white students are living on campus, and she's living in Kansas City, and just in case you don't know, Unity Village is about a 45-minute drive at 70 miles an hour from downtown Kansas City. I have no idea what it was in 1952. So she's doing the school, 3 years into school. She says, that's it. My car is, the flood made it so my car broke down halfway. I can't get to school. I am done. She told her classmates, you can have this program. I'm not doing it. Well, her classmates took up a petition, and the petition went to the leadership, and the leadership relented and let her live on grounds when it was illegal. Segregation was still the law in Missouri. But it was the beginning of a shift of consciousness. So, what she says is that, yeah, I lived there, but I lived with the workers. Way down there, under that tree. But she got to live on site. She got to graduate with her classmates, and she became the Reverend Johnny Coleman. And she went to Chicago, and she started a study group with a handful of friends. And 2 years later, she had 262 members in her community. And 2 years after that, they built their first church. And in 1999, after she'd been in this ministry for a number of years, 1956 to 1999, she had over 4,000 members in her church in Chicago. Yeah. So she paved the way for Ruth Mosley. Ruth Mosley decided also, because of a healing that she received when she learned unity and truth principles, when she learned that what Jesus was teaching was actually replicable, she went to Unity and she became a minister, and she took that back home to Detroit. Remember this name, Dr. Ruth Mosley. She was a doctor when she went. As a matter of fact, she finished 5th grade. She finished 5th grade. So she went to Unity Village. She got to live on ground. She got to live with the students. And she graduated with that class, and she went back to Detroit, Michigan. And she grew a ministry, thousands and thousands of people. And the people in this ministry decided that they wanted to become teachers. They wanted to become ministers. That the message that they were receiving was so different, so amazing to them, that they wanted to have a school too, because they had applied to Unity's school, and unfortunately, the tests for the ministerial program were geared to college-educated white people. And they couldn't get in. So you know what Ruth did. She started a school. She started the urban ministry. And she put out hundreds of ministers from the urban ministry. There was a visit from one of the presidents of the Association of Unity Churches out to the urban ministry in their first few years. And when that white boy showed up, the students in the urban ministry took a look and went, I didn't know we had white people in Unity. Ethnocentricity runs everywhere. We do not, as white people, have that down pat, and nobody else has a patent on it. Both of these women served as presidents for Unity's Association of Churches at some point in their ministry. They took on Goliath because they didn't just take on something in their consciousness, right? They took on an outer expression of a consciousness of humanity that had gone on for hundreds of years. And you can say, well, they got here at just the right time, because there were others moving in that same direction. But what I believe is that there is a oneness, there is a connection in our consciousness, that we are all connected. And yeah, they got here at just the right time, but they listened to the source of life itself, guide them and direct them to do things that were completely undoable by them in their human experience. Only powered by the divine did that happen. I want to show a clip of Reverend Johnny Coleman at her 45th anniversary in ministry.
I am a channel for God, created and brought on this earth for definite reasons, and I must do that in spite of what you think or what you believe or what you continue to say. I don't have to prove anything to anybody. Drive out to 119th Street. Look for yourself. God did it through a channel called Johnny Coleman with your help and your support. I am so happy to have my children stand up here tonight and talk about consciousness. There was a time they were like everybody else. If I said consciousness, the world talked about me upside down. Now they're saying it. Everybody's got to say it because it is the truth. Consciousness is what we are. Consciousness is what I am. Consciousness means awareness. Whatever you are aware of, that's what you have in your life, in your world, and in your affairs. Change your thoughts and you change your world. Because you are the thinker that thinks the thought that makes the thing. If you like what you hear, come back, because that's all you're going to hear up in here. I thank you so very much. I love you. We are celebrating 45 years in the ministry. Now let me tell you something, children. Look at me and listen. Age is none of my business. And don't come up here telling me nothing about how old you are. I don't care nothing about what you say. Age is none of my business. And don't talk about age to me, Henry Harder, okay? And none of the rest of you. If I listen at you, I won't be able to step in my car when I get out there, because I'll have everything old age is supposed to have. Barbara, I'm so glad you came from Atlanta yesterday and got here this morning. That's a real special blessing. God bless you, and thank you so much. To all of you, thank you. Maybe turn within. I know some of these people, you know, that really know me. I do an hour and a half. Tonight I could have stayed all night. Because I liked what they were saying. And everything they said was true. Maybe turn within for our benediction, please. In the beginning is God. In the end is God. All in between is God. Everything there is God. In me, I am. God in me is evenly present everywhere. Just God. There is no fear in God. Wherever you are, God is. Wherever I am, God is. God bless you, everyone. And remember, I'm everybody's mama. All of you are my children. And when I speak to you, don't argue with your mama. Just do it. Thanks, God, for the greatest evening of the rest of my life. In the name of the Father, in the name of the Son, and in the name of the Holy Spirit, all is well. Go in peace. Amen, amen, and Amen.
Faced a Goliath. She faced a Goliath. She overcame. She overcame by calling forth the good in the Goliath. She said, I know that you are God expressing. You can express better. She had a Goliath within her own consciousness too, that she had to overcome. The idea that she would be able to, because for all of those who were able to do what she did, how many thousands do you think never even were able to face the Goliath in their own consciousness to say, I deserve better? How many times have I not been able to face the Goliath in my own consciousness that says I deserve better? This is an opportunity for us to really understand that whenever we have an experience of lack, the experience of lack is pointing us towards a place in our own consciousness, because once we change our thoughts, we can change our lives. We can ask for better if it means something from the outside. There are, unfortunately, unjust systems in our world still. And if we need that unjust system to change, we have to believe that we're worthy. And that we can, with God working in us and through us. Did you all hear what she said? This is the work that God has done through Johnny Coleman. She named herself. What is the work that God does through Reverend Terry Murray? What is the work that God is doing through you? Through us. That's what we're being invited into. Opening into greatness by allowing God, however it is that you understand God or don't, to work in us and through us and as us, and that we take footwork to move in the direction that we believe God would have us move. Emily Cady says, before ever you are conscious of any lack, of any desire for happiness, for fullness of joy, the great Father, Mother Heart has desired them for you. It is God in you desiring them that you feel and think it is only yourself. There is a presence of power that desires for us good in all things. Whenever you have an experience or a thought of lack, that is an invitation to turn toward God and say, what is the good that is yours to deliver in me, through me, as me, in the world? And how can I do the footwork to bring that about? Are you good with that? Yes. Yes. That's a good plan. I have enough time. I have enough love. I have enough joy. I have enough intelligence. I have enough friends. I have enough wisdom. I have enough faith. I have enough integrity. I have enough freedom. I have enough God. I have enough God, and my life is filled with abundance to overflowing. This is the truth for each one of us. Go and make it so.
It's enough just looking in your eyes.
And so I invite you to prepare for meditation by relaxing the body. Close the eyes if that's comfortable, and if not, find a place where they might rest. Focal point, perhaps a candle. Let's bless the body. Allow your attention to wander from feet to knees and hips, becoming aware of the sensations of your legs and feet. The torso, back and the stomach, perhaps allowing them to relax even more deeply into the chair. The arms and the hands resting. And the neck and the face relaxed. Let us breathe deeply. Take that inhale and hold it and release. Do this a couple more times. Breathing in. On that in-breath, recognize the enoughness. And then releasing. Feel again the enough. And a third time, breathing in deeply and holding for a moment, noticing the desire to release, let it go. We live in this constant state of giving and releasing, receiving, opening and closing. We are alive with the presence of God. Please allow these words to be your own. In harmony with God, I am whole and healthy. Regardless of outer conditions, I stay in tune with spirit and connected to my innate health and wellness. I focus on health. I am already whole because of my union with God. I am serene as I breathe into this moment. This moment gives me space and peace to calm my mind and center myself. This is a practice of peace. The breath moving in and out of my body brings peace to my heart, to my muscles, to my thoughts. God's love flows freely in and through me. I release any thoughts in discord, any thoughts of resentment or pain. And I know, I affirm God's love is all there is. invite you to be with this statement for a few moments in the silence. Made in the image and likeness of God, I am free in spirit. I am free in spirit. Together. I am free in spirit. Thank you, God. Thank you, presence. Thank you, Spirit, moving in us and through us. We're so grateful for the awareness of the truth of who and what we are. We're so grateful for the opportunity to live full, joyful, abundant lives. We are open, each one of us, to the power and the presence of Spirit, directing us, guiding us, lifting us up. Thank you, God. And so it is. Amen.
And in this place of calm and still and wonder, life is magical again, and I am free. And I don't need to know just where or how to go. Right here, right now is all I need. And it's enough to feel the breeze on my face. It's enough to just breathe life. It's enough to know the love that's in my heart. And it's enough just looking in your eyes. Oh, life is a gift. So are you, and so am I. I don't ever want that truth to slip on by. So please remind me that it's enough to feel the breeze on my face. It's enough to just breathe life. It's enough to know the love that's in my heart. And it's enough just looking in your eyes. Oh, it's enough just looking in your eyes.